Patrick Mahomes is having an elite year this season that would be most quarterbacks' best season of their entire career, but it's still a bit disappointing for him because he's not clearly the best quarterback in the league, which he definitely has the potential to be. And I say that with the utmost respect to Josh Allen or Joe Burrow, whoever you want to consider, Lamar Jackson, of course. When Mahomes is on, he can be the best by a wide margin. But this year, he's definitely not doing that. And the stats reflect that. He's 11th in expected points added plus completion percentage over expected, 6th in success rate, which, if you don't know what either of those stats are, be sure to check out the videos I did on them, as they're very versatile stats because they can help you define how well an offense, defense, or quarterback is playing. So they're very useful. And going with the old standby, he's 6th in quarterback rating. So again, his stats are great. Those are awesome numbers for any quarterback, but they just are not up to his standard, which is, again, a standard that's very tough to adhere to. One thing the Chiefs have going for them, though, is that they have a very, very great offensive line. It's 5th in pass blocking when combining PFF's team rank plus ESPN's pass blocking win rate. So the two most useful, in my opinion, pass blocking stats put together. That's an elite stat, or elite placement in that stat to be 5th. They are, without a doubt, I would say the best pass blocking interior offensive line, and they are uplifting the entire unit. Joe Thuney is capable of playing tackle, and that shows as a guard. He is just elite. Trey Smith is also really, really good as a pass blocker, and Creed Humphrey. I think we all know at this point that he's like a top 3 center in the league, and he's great, obviously, then as a pass protector. They do have some question marks to tackle. I would say Jawan Taylor is a question mark, even though he's the better of the two. He holds a fair amount. I don't know what he's doing this year, but I know last year he was like first out of any position in penalties, which was in part false starts and also holds as well. But then their left tackle, Wanya Morris, he is really bad. He can be attacked over and over by great edge rushers, and that's really problematic because it prevents Mahomes' playmaking ability quite a bit. So that could be a chunk of why Mahomes is not doing as great as he normally does. But overall, they have a great line, definitely an elite one. And shifting now to their weapons, things slow down quite a bit. Travis Kelce, their lead guy, is having a down year by his standards as well, as he's 43rd in yards per game and 125th in yards per reception. So he is not very efficient when he gets the ball, and he's not winning deep downfield basically at all. He can still move the chains, which has a lot of value still, but aside from that, he's not supplying a lot. He's an alright blocker. I think sometimes people can be dramatic and act like he's some terrible, useless blocker. He isn't that bad, especially when he's a slot. He's a really useful blocker as a slot receiver. He's just not very good as an inline tight end blocker. Moving now to their number 1 wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins. He's not great. He is 83rd in yards per game and 74th in yards per reception. He really illustrates what the receiving room is all about because he's their number one guy. So you think of an outside receiver that can really get deep downfield and have success that way. That's not Hopkins. Obviously, he is struggling to get deep downfield as he's 74th in yards per reception. He does not have basically any juice at this point in his career. He never really was much of an athlete, but he's lost the remaining athletic abilities that he had. So that's a bit troubling. And it really makes the offense have to be very left and right instead of up and down, which is not as inefficient of a way to play football. Moving to Xavier Worthy, though, he's 100th in yards per game and 46th in yards per reception. Worthy is at least competent at winning deep downfield. He does provide some field stretching abilities, but your best guy being 46th in yards per reception, that's not ideal. At least it gives him something, though. He does have elite track speed that hopefully can transition into something for the Chiefs with even greater field stretching abilities, but it hasn't really yet. He struggled to get in deep downfield situations in college, which, if you can't win with elite speed in college, you're probably not going to win in the pros. But I digress on that. Shifting to, believe it or not, their second tight end now, Noah Gray. He is, I think, their third best, or fourth best, rather, receiving option. He is 110th in yards per game and 56th in yards per reception. It's crazy to think that he is better in yards per reception than Hopkins is, and right there with Worthy, who is so much faster than Gray is. But Gray has some capabilities. He is more than competent as a receiver. He can block well. He's a really good tight end, too. There's basically nothing that you would ask a tight end to do that he can't. So he has immense value to the Chiefs. Someone the Chiefs would like to get going, though, is Juju Smith-Schuster. He is 149th in yards per game and 23rd in yards per reception, which is an absolute lie. That just comes from him having a very limited sample size that makes him look better than he actually is, because he has never been a field stretcher quite like that. He has never really been athletic in the league, and he's kind of slowing down a little bit with injuries as well. So I don't see him anywhere near that level of winning deep, but maybe he's somehow turned it around. I don't know. I guess there's a greater than 0% chance that that's the case. They have now a truly great rushing attack. I mentioned before that their interior offensive line is great, and it helps immensely with the rushing game. They are 7th in rushing expected points added and 1st in rushing success rate. So they are getting it done every which way. They are studs at rushing and having long runs, and they are also consistent in having good, 4 or 5 yards at a pop in their attempts. And this is with Isaiah Pacheco missing a great deal of the season, and them having Kareem Hunt as their running back, who is so slow. He is good physically, but he just does not have the juice needed to have long runs. Going now to their defense, they are 17th in defensive expected points added and 17th in defensive success rate. So great consistency there. That kind of checks out. I think they have the capabilities to be a bit better, but I wouldn't say too much better. They have Steve Spagnuolo, who is a great defensive mind. He's done it for years now. I think he was with the Giants for their second Super Bowl, and he's been with the Chiefs now for quite a while. He is great at dialing up blitzes, especially with corners and safeties, and he really gets the most out of his guys with man coverage, especially if they can play man. And he's turned defensive backs that have been drafted in like the 4th and 5th rounds into absolute stars. So he really deserves a lot of praise. As for the players, though, we'll start off with Chris Jones, who is a stud pass rusher. He's solid against the run, too. I think sometimes that gets lost on people because he's definitely much better as a pass rusher, but he can defend the run pretty well also. I'm not going to act like he's even with those because he's definitely not, but he has value in both regards, and that really adds a lot to him as a player. Next, we have George Karlaftis, who's mid as a run defender and good as a pass rusher. So he's very solid as well. He supplies some needed pass rush that makes it to where they don't have to blitz on every play because they have a good edge that can get after the quarterback. Karlaftis has the potential to be really, really good against the run because he's a big man. He's like, I want to say about 260, which is pretty big for an edge. He's strong. He can really be a great run defender if he puts his mind on it. Somebody that is a great run defender, though, is Michael Dana, or Mike Dana. I'm not sure which one he prefers. He's a quality run defender, and he's a poor pass rusher, but he can really set the edge, and he can even play inside and defend the run there. He's also pretty big. I don't know exactly how much he weighs, but he is super physical in the run game, and he does a great job at having gap integrity. Similarly, in the craziest of ways, simply because this guy also has good gap integrity, but he plays a totally different position, is Trent McDuffie. He is an elite pressure getter. I mean, like Jamal Adams in his prime, blitz boy type of stuff. He is so good at getting after the passer. He's also solid in coverage. I'd say that's the thing he's least good at, relative to the position at least. Like he can cover way better than, a linebacker could, and he can blitz, I would say almost as well as a linebacker. So he has a very odd skill set. He is really, really good against the run. He's elite against the run. So he has a lot of value in a lot of different ways. And it's so difficult to go against because you never know what he's going to be doing. Next, we have Shamari Connor. Chamari, I think. I don't know how you pronounce that. He is a star pressure getter as well. He can get after the quarterback. He's good in coverage, and he's a quality run defender. What more could you want? Justin Reed, he's meh as a pass rusher. I've never really seen him get in effectively, but he's solid in coverage, and he's good against the run, so he has a lot of value. He also is the emergency kicker or the backup kicker. I'm not sure, maybe just the backup. And he was potentially going to be the guy that did kickoffs, which shows you just how versatile this dude is. To round out their good players, we have Leo Chanel, who is an elite run defender. He doesn't really get after the quarterback very much, And I would say he's a question mark at coverage. He's not good or bad, I wouldn't say. He just doesn't really get used in that regard, which probably suggests that he's not great at it. But they also have Nick Bolton and Drew Tranquil, who are decent players at least. So they have something going for them. Next, we have, if I didn't say before too, they have 7 above average defensive starters, in my opinion. Next, we have the 3 below average defensive starters. The first one, I'm going to have some fun picking on Nazeeh Johnson. He lacks in coverage. I don't know if he can get after the quarterback. I don't know what he does as a run defender, but he's not getting coverage, which is the biggest thing that matters for a cornerback. And he wears number 13. So you know dude is not good. He's wearing 13 as a cornerback. I mean, come on, get real. Next, we have Brian Cook. I don't know what he does as a pressure getter. I haven't really seen him blitz, but he's poor in coverage and a quality run defender. So he does have some value. It's just not quite as good as you would hope for somebody that I think he was drafted pretty highly. If not, I'm confusing him with someone else. Either way, it's not as good as you would hope for somebody that can defend the run as well as he can. It would be nice if he could defend the pass too, but he just really can't. And then lastly, even though I said he's decent, we have Drew Tranquil. He is decent, but he's low end decent, where, let me elaborate. He's a mid run defender, so that's not really helping his cause. And then he's a solid pressure getter, so that helps him a little bit. But he lacks pretty heavily in coverage, so that holds him back quite a bit. That is super important. As a linebacker, you at least have to just be solid in coverage, so you can't be picked on all day. He can be picked on, though. So that's a problem. I think that they just lack, generally, coverage in their linebackers. Bolton is not really good in coverage. He's had flashes for sure. He also has the athletic profile of somebody that would be good in coverage, but I wouldn't say he's consistently good in that regard. Defensively, the Chiefs have a lot of talent, but they also have some pretty clear weaknesses that kind of balance each other out. They're really well coached, but that only means so much. At the end of the day, you need the guys as well. Those are my thoughts on the Chiefs. Be sure to let me know what yours are in the comment section, and also be sure to like and subscribe for more NFL content.